Not during the ceremony, but at the reception. The father of the bride was supposed to give a speech. He got up and all he said was, "Don't worry, groom's name, when I got married my in-laws didn't like me either," and sat down. You could hear a pin drop in the room. Worked with a videographer once. I turned up to the rehearsal, planned out shots, liaised with the priest about how to get the best coverage while not disrupting anything, and arrived up 2 hours early on the day to get set up. The stills photographer rocked up 5 minutes after the bride on the day, asked if she could come in again so he could photograph it, and then at the "or forever hold your peace" part, kicked over his own tripod, smashed his camera and shouted "fuck." Yes, it was at my wedding. A friend's very sweet 5-year-old little boy shouted no at the top of his voice. Then he went and hid at the back of the room while his mother died of embarrassment. We all laughed and carried on. Thankfully didn't count as a lawful objection. Sort of. My own wedding. My mill hated me. I married a Southerner, I am a damned Yankee, and we are of different religions. She did everything she could to stop her daughter from dating me, including cutting off her tuition. Anyway, we decide to get married by a justice of the peace. He was retired and really cool. Former judge and minister. He asked questions and so we had to tell him about my witch of a mill. So the night of the rehearsal, just as we are wrapping up, this 85-year-old Jop stands up and asks for everyone's attention. He said, "These two kids love each other and are getting married tomorrow. If anyone has any objections they can speak now because they will not ruin the ceremony tomorrow." Then he proceeded to look coldly at Mill and said, "Is there anything you want to say?" Her face scrunched up like she was sucking on a lemon. You knew she had been planning on it all along and had just had all the wind taken out of her sails. She cowed down and just shook her head. He just looked at her and said, "I thought not." The phrase was never uttered during the wedding, so all was well. Bitch still hates me even now, though her daughter and I have been married 27 years now. Yes, it was terrible. Her adult son threw a fit, gave a speech, the whole 9 yards. It was more like an emotional breakdown tantrum. It was crazy. The wedding was held at the bride's parents' home. They thought they had every detail covered until the question was asked, and the officiant did his poignant pause. That's when the cuckoo clock decided to speak up. When the laughter finally faded, the ceremony continued, but the bride, the groom and the minister all chuckled through the rest of the ceremony. Best wedding ever. At my wedding, my mom was the officiant, so she didn't put it in because we assumed we'd have at least one person from his side say something. My in-laws still made sure to beg my now husband not to marry me literally minutes from when the wedding was supposed to start. After our honeymoon there were like 3 months that we lived with my in-laws. They would beg him to leave me, take full custody of our son, and just forget about me, in front of me. They would tell him that I wasn't the girl they had planned for him, very controlling people, or that there was someone that they thought would better fit into the family, etc. We've been together almost 4 years now and Phil will still say things like that in front of me. Mill waits until I'm not around to say things. No, but when my cousin got married there was a lot of my family, aunts and uncles mostly, but also her parents, that were very against it for a number of reasons and had said they would object when the time came. The time never came. The priest never asked. That part of the ceremony was completely skipped on purpose. 10 years later they are still married, he controls everything she does and she's not allowed to have a job or leave the house. She has a master's degree in early childhood education and development, but they are on welfare because he only works when he can no longer collect unemployment. Not at the wedding, but at the reception. When my best friend got married her mom made a speech during the reception about how her daughter was a slut and her son-in-law deserved better. I never wanted to punch somebody so much in my life, but the maid of honor punching the mother of the bride would just be the cherry on top of an already disastrous wedding. Yes, but it was scripted beforehand. Our friends decided that weddings are kinda boring and they wanted to have more fun with theirs. So when the officiant asked the question, a man stood up and started dramatically declaring his love for the bride, ran up to the altar, and begged her to choose him instead. He said he'd make all her dreams come true. My husband, the best man, stabbed the guy in the back with a stage dagger. He fell to the ground and the groomsmen dragged his limp body off to the side, and the service continued. It was epic. Mate of mine went to a wedding where this question was asked, and someone stood up and said I do. You can't marry them. They already eloped. And the bridal party laughed and confirmed it. They'd eloped a month earlier and were already married. Kinda sweet. I was a bridesmaid at a very Catholic wedding where they actually asked this question. In 2000, there was a layer of tension among the family and guests because the couple was very young, had only known each other 6 months, and the groom was clearly very gay. I myself witnessed him get a handjob at a club from a drag queen, so when the question was asked the church got very quiet. It felt like everyone was hoping someone else would actually say something. At that moment the priest's microphone gave off a blaring feedback. Everyone laughed. I'm not a religious person, but man, that felt like a sign. Not the object to this marriage question, but I heard of a local wedding where the church service was beautiful and the reception was near perfect. After the speeches to the bride and groom, the bride spoke in appreciation for all friends, family, and her new husband and their excitement for life together. The groom was last to speak and thanked everyone for being so good to them, and then apologized that they had to be part of such deceit. He explained that the night before his bride was fucking his best man and that he was filing for annulment immediately. He also explained that he felt it best to proceed with the wedding while he made his final decision. He also suggested that the father of the bride, who paid significant amounts towards their wedding, hold both his daughter and the best man financially responsible. Then he walked out. When I was 10, my aunt got married. It was a really small ceremony, just very close family, and my brother, 8, and I were the ring bearers. Nobody told us when we were supposed to present the rings, so when they said the bit about speak now or forever remain silent, he figured that it was a good time to give the ring. He went and gave it to my aunt, and for a second there was this really awkward silence, and then we all just started laughing. We look back on it now and tease him about it a lot.